Welcome to Mt Shasta Escape. Today I'm combining comparison rides I made between the Suzuki GSX 8S and the Tiger 900 GT Pro on 9/29 and also on October 12th. This is a street bike versus adventure bike comparison. Why? Because I happen to own both. It also turns out it's a comparison between that microphone I've been using in my helmet for quite some time and the new Purple Panda mic. The October 12th video uses the Purple Panda. Okay, get a good look at the dash. This is the Suzuki GSX 8S. I really like the dash on it. It's very simple and easy to use. And here's the Tiger's dash. It's larger, 7-inch versus 5-inch. It is not simple and easy to use. It shows more information, but it's harder to read, and the tachometer on this is just really kind of a joke. And I'm going to do about a half-hour ride on this bike, come home, and then I'm going to take the Tiger out so I can do a back-to-back ride on him. This bike starts a whole lot easier than the Triumph because it's got that little one quick little tap and it finishes the start for you. You don't have to sit there and hold it down. You're also less likely to stall this motorcycle because at low RPMs, first gear you let the clutch out, it automatically will boost the RPM a little bit to make stalling pretty much a non-issue. The motor is quieter than the Triumph motor. Some people like that, some people won't. You get a little more gearbox whine out of the Triumph too than you do out of this. You just noticed I took the wind deflector off the Triumph during yesterday's ride. I've got a video that should be out by the time you see this. Decided I didn't like it on the Triumph. I do like it on this. So I got to slide it a little bit over to the right, but not for this next half-hour ride. The way you change traction control, change your Suzuki drive mode selector, or basically what Triumph calls their throttle control map, is just super intuitive on this. And you got A, B, C. You just set it to where you want. C is the softest, A is the sharpest, sportiest. Traction control, same thing. 1 is the least, 3 is the most. Super easy to change it, where Triumph obfuscates everything. I mean, you got your rain, instead of calling numbers and everything, you got rain, you got road, you got sport, which you can change between while you're riding, and then within them you can kind of tailor various things. But they actually don't tell you what your traction controls are, what your ABS level settings are, or anything like that. You just kind of have to feel what it feels like and go from there. Rain is soft. I mean, it's a little bit like C mode would be on this bike. I haven't seen a lot of difference yet between road, sport, and even off-road, how the throttle map is. Rain, I can tell a difference though. But on this bike, very intuitive, very easy. This bike is not much lower, but you know, according to specs, it's only 0.4 of an inch lower, but according to feels like, the bike just has always felt low. I get flat-footed. The Triumph, I can get my feet down, but I can't quite flat-foot it. This bike has a very low center of gravity. I find the seat on this quite comfortable. It's firmer than the Triumph seat. I don't find it different, but the 250-mile ride I took on this, I thought the seat was very comfortable, and 225-mile ride I took on the Triumph yesterday, same thing. On this bike, I took 6.5 hours, and I stopped a lot, which, you know, probably helped my posterior. Triumph, I did the 225 in 5 hours. It didn't stop quite as often. The seat was okay. Again, I was ready to get off after 5 hours, but I could have gone 6 or 7 if I had to. The steering of this bike on the road is very precise, very sharp, very quick. I like that. I'm not doing a highway speed test on this today. Maybe some other day, if I feel like it, I'll take them out on the interstate, back to back, but basically they're both good on the street. This is sportier on the street, there's no question. Also, because I had my one tip over of this bike in the garage, I had to replace the clutch lever. I went ahead and replaced the brake lever also, but they're both adjustable and I can adjust them in fairly close to the handlebars. The Triumph clutch lever is adjustable, but I can't adjust it in as close as what I can with these aftermarket levers. That's something I may have to look into on the Triumph at some point. Now, this road isn't bad. I mean, it's not like a lot of roads that I have ridden this on that were bumpy enough it rattled your teeth out. But it's got just enough bump. You can feel it's got a firm ride, but on this road, I mean, it's not objectionable. It's fine. I'm not going to try to ride this on dirt and do a comparison to the Triumph. I rode this on dirt enough to know that you can do it, but you're not going to be happy with it. The Triumph, at this point, I should have already posted some videos where I've ridden it on some moderately difficult dirt, and the bike just does amazingly well. And I mean, that's their GT Pro, more road-oriented version, but it's got the 19-inch front wheel. The previous owner put Dunlop Trail Max Mission tires on it, which I think originally people were saying they're like a 50-50 tire, and they said no. I think Dunlop still is calling it a 60-40, 60 road, 40%. And some people said no, it's really more like 70-30. But I can tell you right now, I've had it in the loose dirt and gravel and so forth, and it's got good traction.
Comparing the Suzuki's tires to the Tigers, I mean, the Suzuki's look almost like racing slicks. Very little tread depth to them, but extremely good on pavement.
And I guess it begs the question, could you put tires like that on this bike? I think you could find some tires for this, 17 inchers, that would be a little more off-roady, which could have helped some of the problems, but it wouldn't solve the short, stiff suspension, wouldn't solve the lack of ground clearance, and it would not solve the 17-inch front wheel, which is just naturally going to tend to tuck under and not be as stable in dirt as a 19 or 21, and mine as a 19, but it's good. Anyway, I decided I was just going down the wrong path, trying to treat this thing like it could be an adventure bike. It could be. I mean, you could ride any motorcycle anywhere.
Here's a microphone comparison. Same stretch of road, about the same speed, with the Purple Panda. This was during my October 12th comparison rides.
I'm really surprised that nobody's bought this motorcycle at the price that I've got it at, $6,000. It's a really, really nice motorcycle. But you know, that's just how it goes. Mount Shasta is a small town, so anybody buying it's likely having to drive a long ways from somewhere else. And
now back to the September 29th ride with the old microphone.
I decided the way I'm doing things, I really do need an adventure bike. And I've got some videos out there already by the time you see this, where I've done some very adventure-y things on it, and I'm happy with it. Haven't decided yet about the that hardest thing I did on the KLX, my Eddie's loop. I'm pretty sure I'll do it someday, but I want to put a real steel skid plate on the Triumph first, because there's some little ledgy things and rocks that I don't want to wind up damaging the engine cases or something. I think I've said this before, the Triumph has cast wheels on it, and the way I'm riding, I'm really not worried about breaking a wheel. You know, you could break any wheel, even a spoked wheel, and I've broken a spoked wheel before at dirt bike race beach. Basically, I was in a cloud of dust with other riders, and I didn't see a big boulder, and I missed it with the front wheel by a whisker, which would have endoed me. That would have been awful. But I did hit it with the rear tire, which still threw me off the bike, but not as bad as if I hit the front. And really put a huge dent in that. At that time, it was a steel spoked wheel. So I bought a new rim for it, an Excel aluminum rim. Used the same spokes, laced it up, and it was no big deal. Something I actually like about the Triumph has tubeless wheels, tubeless tires, which this bike does too, but a lot of your dirt bikes do not. They put tube wheels on them, and there's pros and cons to that. KTM goes tubeless, and they're about as hardcore dirt as you can imagine. But the argument for tubes is that when you're out riding hard in the dirt, if you do bend a rim, you can replace the tube if you damaged it, but you can also, even with a bent rim, it'll hold air and you can still go. Or the tubeless tire, if that happens, if you don't have a tube with you to put in there, you're done. So I like the Triumph's motor, the triple. I like the quiet nature of this bike. The low RPM is very smooth, so is the Triumph, but the Triumph continually has a little bit of a gearbox, kind of transmission whine to it. It's just a little noisy. Where this is just quiet muffler, and you don't hear anything out of the gearbox. Would I have been happy with that V-Strom 800DE? I'm sure it would have been. Who knows? I may keep this Triumph for a year or two and still go to that V-Strom 800DE. Don't know. Never say never about anything. If I could have a little more ground clearance, a little more suspension travel than my Triumph, it would have spoked wheels, tubed, which, like I say, they're pros and cons. With tubeless, it's real easy to do a plug patch if you get a nail or something. If you were to rip a sidewall or something, you'd have to have a tube to put in. The tube tires, I mean, you got no choice. You have to take the wheel off and break open one side up and pull the old tube out, try to find whatever punctured it, get it out, put the new tube in, spin it back onto the rim, put it back on your wheel. A lot more work than just doing a plug patch. On the other hand, with tubes and a spare tube, and I always carry 3 patches too, but you can almost always fix your tire problems, where with tubeless, you either fix it easy or maybe you don't at all. Again, KTM is fine with that. KTM just says, sure, we'll go tubeless. And I mean, those are the acknowledged hardcore OHV adventure bikes out there, so go figure. And to put it mildly, I really like riding this motorcycle, which would beg the question. I mean, I don't have to sell it. Got room in the garage for both of them. Would I want to hang on to this for occasional rides or just do the Triumph? I'm still leaning towards just doing the Triumph, but we'll see what I think after riding this up here and then turning around and riding the Triumph up here. I mean, if I decided I like this well enough, I want to do more road riding on it, I could put a taller windscreen on it. I could get that Meridian cruise control put on it. It's still going to have a stiff ride. I'm not going to be able to get away from that no matter what I do. And this road is just bumpy enough to remind me a little bit about that. Okay, I think I'm going to turn around here if I don't see anybody coming towards me. That gravel looks fairly firm over there. Don't see any cars, so back home I go, and then I'll do this again on the Triumph. I'm in what would be probably called, what I want to say, road mode on the Triumph here, because traction control 2, SDMS, or what they call throttle control map B, you know, it's kind of middle of the road. The thing I like about this, you don't have to guess. You look, you see exactly what traction control is. You see exactly what your throttle map is. On this, you cannot turn off the ABS, but if I had the V-Strom 800, you could turn the ABS off with it. And with the Triumph, not really clear if you could totally turn off that ABS or not. I need to play with that a little bit more. And then listen, in the quick shifter, you just go into the menus and it just says quick shifter on, quick shifter off. Easy to see, and then it gives you a little QS on the screen, you know if it's off or on. The Triumph, instead of a QS for quick shifter, they call it TSA for Triumph Shift Assist. And you can turn that off and on too. You can spell all your modes. But it's not so easy to do. It's just very deep in the menu. It's here, like I say, it's just so much easier to change things while you're riding it. Really easy to flip between the trip 1, trip 2. Shows you what your current mileage MPG is in trip 1 and trip 2 separately. Shows me how many miles empty. It shows me what my instantaneous mileage is. Trying to show that too is all. I mean, this is really kind of a more upright seating, naked sport bike. I really didn't notice quite how sporty a motorcycle I was buying when I got this. I like it, but the thing is, I'm just not that sporty of a rider anymore. Better suited to a young guy or young lady. This bike has got a low enough seat height. It's fairly low center of gravity, low enough weight, but I think this would be an appropriate bike for lots of people and smaller people too. Again, I got a 29-inch inseam and I can just barely flat foot it both sides, but shorter yet. I mean, if you've got a little experience, you don't mind just putting one foot down at a time, which is kind of what I have to do on the Triumph. You'd be fine with it. The thing about this motorcycle, I mean, if you wanted to push it in the corners, the stock tires on it, and they're quite a bit grippier on pavement than what the Triumph's tires are. The Triumph tires are made to be this kind of dual use tire, which you can do on highway and actually get some use and fun out of them on dirt, gravel, sand, stuff like that. So designed for different purposes. And if you're just using a tire designed for OHV and stuff, you get your knobby. If you're just designing, getting a bike for, getting a tire for a road bike like this, you design it for pavement. And when it comes to just looks, I think the Suzuki just looks awesome. I think it looks a lot meaner than the Triumph. The Triumph looks okay, but this one is much edgier, and in my opinion, I think it looks better. But again, this bike I'm on is designed to be kind of a, this is kind of an oxymoron, but kind of a mellow hooligan bike. You know, it's a really nice throttle control, and you can ride it very mellow, but it's a bit of a hooligan too. If you want to push it in corners, go shooting around on it. It's not quite as extreme as a KTM Duke, but I've said this before on other rides. I mean, if you were riding with a group of people like KTM Duke, I think you'd have a lot of fun with them. And I'll probably have a minute too, but the Triumph has, you know, high-end Brembo brakes front and rear on it, but I rode that Triumph for 225 miles yesterday, and I can't see much difference in these brakes. They seem very crisp and sharp to me. And this does have radial mount front brakes, just like the Brembos and the Tiger. Anyway, a delightful ride. I like this motorcycle. I'm off again. So I'm on my tiptoes where I was flat foot on the other. Very different sound to this motor. Very torquey. More top heavy, I can feel that. Sort of deal though, I mean, if I just start riding this only, which won't happen until I sell the Suzuki, it won't feel so top heavy because that'll be what I'm used to all the time. Already, what a different feel to it. It just feels much more plush, a little more planted. Definitely more upright. I won't do this today, but now the question would be if I rode the Triumph first and then did the Suzuki, how would it feel? Riding the Suzuki first, I thought it felt great. Riding the second, I like this too. And boy, it's going over the little pavement irregularities much, much smoother. Seat feels very different. It feels squishy. Not sure, but I may like the Suzuki seat better. A little firmer. Oh, this is so smooth. The same road that felt a little choppy and rough doesn't feel choppy and rough at all in this. But sure, the wind protection on this is much better. Like just a little bit longer. It is a little more top heavy, but all that kind of makes it a little more stable feeling once you're going down the road like this. And the price you pay for that, it's not going to be quite as quick, you know, from corner to corner. The tires on this, of course, are not going to grip like the tires on the 8S. But these are kind of that multi-purpose tire. They're not just a road tire. You can put a road tire on this bike, but once again, it's like, why do that? I mean, use this bike the way it's intended. A lot of road, a little bit of dirt mixed in. And use the Suzuki the way it's intended. I mean, it's just a hoot on the road, ripping along. I'm going to talk about a little bit of a gearbox transmission noise. Right now, the way I'm riding, you don't hear it. All you hear is the exhaust note. And it is louder. Not loud, but I mean, it's louder than the 8S. It's got a very quiet muffler, which I like, but some people don't. Okay, I said I wouldn't, but the quick shift on this is a little bit smoother, but kind of so what. I think a lot of people that do these YouTube motorcycle reviews all the time, and it's kind of their job. I think they do a lot of nitpicking. You know, they ride a lot of bikes, so they do see a lot of differences in them, but a lot of the stuff that they focus on can be pretty minor, which really won't matter to most people. The trick is when you watch those kind of reviews is to kind of sift through them and decide for yourself what you think does and doesn't matter. 38 pounds more than the Suzuki, but again, it's got a bigger gas tank. It carries it's weighed up a little higher for that reason, but where the weight gets you on this bike too. And I've ridden it now on some stuff that are, it's somewhat challenging, harder than what I see a lot of the adventure ride people do. Still not what I call hard, but I had no trouble at all riding it. Where you get in trouble is if you accidentally tip it over someplace. It can be a whole lot harder trying to extricate yourself from a tip over in some awkward situation on a heavy bike than it would be on a dual sport. This was where I turned around, so I'm going to turn around here again. And I think I'm going to get better as time goes on, but this is a little bit harder to do a UE like that than on the Suzuki. The Suzuki with the lower seat height, noticeably lower center of gravity, lower weight, it was easier turning around there. On the other hand, that gravel wasn't deep, but if you get in gravel, it's a little bit deep. Those street tires and the 17-inch front wheel can be a handful. I've done that. And I've done that on this bike now, too, and it just is, it does well. Just, I got to say, for the way I want to ride, this bike suits me better. That's what bugs me about the Suzuki. I do some long ride, and I'd almost always find myself getting on dirt. Although, the ride I took yesterday, up into Lassen Volcanic National Park, no dirt whatsoever on that ride, so yeah, Suzuki would have been fine with that, except wouldn't have had enough wind protection, and it would have been lack of cruise control, both of which could be fixed, but not the way I got the bike set up. Again, Triumph, and I gather BMW and a lot of the other manufacturers have issues with this, but it's really hard to see what your current total mileage is on this bike. It's only when you first start it out that it's really brief. If you're not really looking, you don't see it. When you turn it off, I think it briefly shows it too, but you got to be looking in the right place before you don't see it. And that Suzuki, it's just really easy to put little display choices and show it instantly, anytime you want. Come on, Triumph. This is a premium bike. Admittedly so. I mean, it is more premium than the Suzuki, but why can't you get your menus and display right? And I gather they've improved it in 2024, but until I see one, I won't know. Also, when it comes time to resetting the service warning, the service interval, no, I mean, it was a little strange with the Suzuki. You had to get your OBD plug and put a thin wire in between two of the ports, and if you screwed it up, you could blow a fuse or hopefully nothing worse. But I mean, it was really simple, and venues for resetting it were right there on your TFT display, and you could set it to whatever mileage you wanted and whatever time period in the future you wanted. Okay, what about Triumph? I'm going to be doing an oil change on this pretty soon. So I change the oil myself if I want the dealer to do it. And my closest dealer is a 4-hour drive, one way away. That's Reno. Sacramento's even a little further. Going to charge me to do it, and it takes them just about seconds to do it. Anyway, most annoying. So I will reset it myself, but the steps I have to go through are so much more difficult. At these lower speeds is where I hear a little bit of a gearbox whistle and some noise out of it. Not bad. The Suzuki gearbox, though, is quieter.
The next section is when I rode the Suzuki and the Triumph on October 12th. Notice the mic is working much better.
I'm kind of wishing I had the handguards of the Triumph and the heated grips and the heated seat and all of that. This is my second ride, though, with a Purple Panda mic. And of course, I don't have the wind protection on this anywhere near like what I have on the Triumph, but I'm optimistic that the mic will still pick up fairly well. Right off the bat, I had to roll the Triumph out of the garage and kind of move it over and then back this one out. And this is a whole lot easier to swing a leg over and a lot easier to back it out of the garage than the Triumph is. And boy, I can already tell that the steering on this is much, much quicker than the steering on the Triumph. And once again, This thing just corners on rails. It's truly amazing. Our hot weather seems to be over for the rest of this season. And I really do enjoy riding the Triumph on curvy roads like this, but this takes it to another level. This is the curvy paved road machine. This is something else. Of course, my Suzuki does not tell me what the outside temperature is, so all I know is it's cold, and it's going to get colder if I do go all the way up to Gumboot. So I guess maybe if it starts raining, that'll give me an excuse to turn around and go back and warm up. I like the Tiger, make no mistake, but it's not a street bike, and it's not a kind of sport-oriented street bike like this one is. I remember when I was planning on selling this way back when, I said, well, you know, if I have this at the same time as whatever new bike I got, I thought it'd be the V-Strom then. I'll do some comparisons between them, and so I'm getting to do that. And I'm already deciding I'm not going to make it all the way to Gumboot Lake. If I do that, I'll be up over 6,000 feet. And right here, you know, I'm probably 3,600 feet. I'm not very high, and I go a lot higher. Boy, it's going to get a lot colder. I think I'd make it if I was on the Triumph. I'd have a little better wind protection. I'd have those heated grips and heated seat. And I could have dressed warmer, and like I say, it takes a little while to kind of adjust to seasons changing. On the other hand, this thing is a hoot to ride. You know, I'm going to turn around here pretty quick, and I'm almost thinking, just to be fair about this, I need to do a short ride in that Triumph Tiger too. Dress the same. Of course, I'm going to start out cold, where I didn't this time. But just give a fair test. Just how much warmer would that Triumph be? And it's kind of funny though. The Triumph is likely to get me in trouble going on to more challenging dirt roads than what I really should be taking a 500-pound bike on. But it's still fun to do. So I won't take this on dirt roads anymore. But this will get me in trouble going faster on these curvy little paved mountain roads than I should. But boy, is it fun. And I got news for anybody thinking about motorcycles. I mean, they're not practical transportation. Some people try to pretend they are, but to heck with that. You ride them because they're fun. They make you feel good. This one does, and so does the Tiger. Different ways, but they're both fun. Okay, I have switched to the Tiger. I've got the heated grips on high. I've got the heated seat on high. Got a little windscreen in front of me. So what's it going to feel like this time? My hands are already starting to warm up a little bit. They were pretty cold. So I got a combination of the hand guards, wind deflecting, and the heated grips. Of course, I'm complaining about being cold. I've seen some golfers out here playing with a t-shirt and shorts on. Didn't see him just then, but when I came back, I saw a guy doing that. I'm guessing if I'd started on this bike, I would have made it to Gumboot Lake. And will I do that now? I don't know, maybe. Again, whatever temperature it is down here, it's going to be at least 10 degrees colder at Gumboot. Now the steering on this Triumph is much, much slower than it is on the Suzuki. I mean, it leans in and it turns fine, but the Suzuki just feels quick, just really wants to turn one way or the other. It's not unstable, it just, like I say, it's just got sporty handling. Much smoother ride, more upright, better wind protection, which when it's cool out. I'm showing 58 degrees now. I don't know what it'll steady at, but so really the test I'm doing today between the two bikes more than anything is just not cold. It's not that cold, but it's cool weather test. This has such a different feel going around the corner. It feels very planted, stable, feels good. It just doesn't have that, come on, let's go, let's turn, let's... Different feel. It's a good feel, but it's different. Just turning on my fog lights / spotlights, I don't know what to call them, the auxiliary lights on this, just to make sure people coming towards me see me. Anytime I turn the motorcycle off, they turn off and they don't automatically turn back on. Most of the time I'd really rather have them on, but I kind of forget to turn them on a lot of times. Now, the better wind protection on this bike makes a big difference when it's chilly. I mean, even my legs, the tank is wider, gives a little better coverage, protection from the wind. I'm not feeling anywhere near as cold. So I'm showing 57 degrees. I haven't come up much. I'm still, I guess, a little over 3,400 elevation, but not enough to make any temperature difference from the house. Now, I know I could put it into rain mode, but the road just doesn't feel all that slippery to me. So I'm in road mode. I think rain mode is going to kick the traction control up a little higher, the ABS up a little more sensitive, and softens the throttle. That's, the rain mode's the only mode on this that I can actually tell the difference in the throttle. Maybe as time goes on, I'll get to where I can tell that, but I haven't been able to yet. But rain, there is a difference. Definitely has a softer throttle. Again, make no mistake, this thing is fun in the corners. It does not have the same feel as the Suzuki. Like I said, the Suzuki just, it's like 40 pounds lighter, but it feels like more than that. It just feels a smaller, more nimble motorcycle. And after having said that, I'm still selling it. I mean, this is my motorcycle of choice. I think I turned around right here before. At any rate, being cold is not an issue for me yet when I'm riding this motorcycle. So I think I'm going to get more winter riding in with this than I would have on the Suzuki. I have a feeling anybody buying the Suzuki, though, is probably going to be somewhere over towards the Bay Area, or at least Redding. I mean, that Redding area all the way to the Bay Area has warm weather all through the winter. That's year-round riding. Mt Shasta, though, nah, Mt Shasta gets cold. You have real seasons. You got a real winter here. You get a lot of snow here in the winter, too, quite often. This road is always gets closed. It's always got deep snow on it. Climbing, temperature's going down a little bit. We're at 52. So I guess this is a little bit going to be a test of, can I ride this motorcycle? And I'm sure I'm going to be in the 40s if I make it all the way to Gumboot. In temperatures like that with light winter gloves. I've owned motorcycles with full fairings that I've ridden in the winter before, but it's been a long time. You kind of forget just what you can and can't do. And this does not have a full fairing. It's got good wind protection, but it's not like a touring bike. Oh, this bike is still a lot of fun in the corners. It's just not egging you on to go even faster in the corners quite as much as that Suzuki does. So I guess for me, this is a more age-appropriate bike. Try to be a little more responsible in how I ride. Down to 50 degrees now. We'll be in the 40s for sure. Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting a little bit of moisture on my windshield. How much precip am I willing to ride in? You know what? I'm going to call it. Oh, now this is kind of deep gravel over here on the left side. I've been in here before with the GSX, and it gets a little challenging to find your way out of it. So I didn't go in very deep, but it was also pretty easy on this. I think I would have made it to gumboot, but it's time to turn around. I really don't feel like riding in a rainstorm. Now the jacket I'm wearing is waterproof. My pants are not. But yeah, it's raining. And by the time I get around to making this video, I'll have already put together another video where I kind of compare the two bikes. And you know what? They'll be a week or more apart from when I did it, but I just might combine this with that one, so I just make one video. But my conclusion on that one was that, I prefer the Tiger. And I might think my conclusion is still that, but I like them both. I mean, they're both a lot of fun, and they're just very different motorcycles. They're kind of aimed at a different target. What are you looking for? Again, if I was just looking for that nimble around-town motorcycle, I think it'd be an absolute no-brainer. That Suzuki is the one to ride. And if you're just looking for paved, twisty roads and such, I don't know, they're both fun, but I'd say the Suzuki probably is a little more fun. But all around the package, I mean, the smooth ride, the heated grips, heated seat, better wind protection, and still fun to ride in the twisties, I'll take this one. And some days, somebody will take that Suzuki and they'll have a good time on it. So, is one bike better than the other? Well, they're different. Different target audiences, and it's really, why do I compare them? Because I have them both. It's not a, it's an apples and oranges comparison. They're very different bikes, very different target audience, very different price points. So, okay, yeah, the $17,000 motorcycle is a little nicer in a lot of ways than the $9,000 motorcycle. Big surprise. So I've had my heated seat and my heated grips on all the way, and my hands feel toasty right now. My bun feels toasty. I don't feel cold. Well, if I was going to do a track day, though, I'll take that Suzuki for a track day. If you live near a track, oh yeah. They both got about the same top speed. I wouldn't doubt that this would accelerate just a hair faster, but again, it's heavier, so it might be closer than you think in terms of acceleration. Only complaint I ever heard about the GSX 8S handling was on a racetrack where these guys that are pro racers, they're, first of all, they get it up to max speed. They're topping out at 126 on the straight, and they're complaining that, well, I could have gone 5 or 6 miles an hour faster through that corner if my foot pegs didn't start grounding out. Okay, that's not something that average mortals are going to discover and be able to do. Although this Triumph with this little bit extra ground clearance, I think you'd find it pretty difficult to ground out the foot pegs. Of course, it's got that center stand. You might drag something if you really tried hammering it through the corners. But the Suzuki, it's got the 17-inch wheels. It's got the fairly sticky street rubber on it. It would corner and grip and go better on a racetrack than this would. So if you had a choice, that's the bike you'd want to take. I've probably said this before, but on a motorcycle, you're on twisty mountain roads and double yellow. Things that you couldn't do in a car. You can get around somebody so blasted quick, and you're so narrow, you can really kind of swing out and back in quick. You can make safe passes on a double yellow, but I just won't ride that way. I've been with groups of people that would ride that way, and I'm not going to say what they did was risking a head-on collision. I think what they did was probably annoying the heck out of the car drivers they passed, because it would surprise them. They would never realize that somebody's about to blast by at hypersonic speed. But as far as just getting around and have enough road ahead to see that you can get around and before anybody would come around that corner and get you, on a motorcycle you can do that. And after having said that, don't. Number one, you're really going to annoy drivers. You might cause them to have a crash. Startle them so much you're on a mountain road, probably, if you're doing it. you might make them have an accident. Do you really want to be responsible for that? I mean, if you really want to go fast, learn to ride a dirt bike and then start getting into some enduro competition, or there's all kinds of different types of dirt bike competition. And then you can go just as fast as your ability and heart's content allow you to. And then you'll find out what it's like to break bones. Don't ask me how I know that. God, I've broken too many bones. But there's where you could legally go fast in a sanctioned way, and yeah, go for it. If you really want to road ride fast, I mean, I've known a lot of people, friends of mine, that road raced. I mean, you got to live near a road race track, but I mean, if you're close enough to go find one on a weekend, go for it. And boy, you can really, really improve your road riding skills if you do that. I mean, I have known and ridden with a number of people that were former road racers, and boy, could they ride a street motorcycle.